Hello friends and fellow sunflowers, my name is Lena and welcome back to my channel. This is my third time recording this video, so let's hope that the universe loves me and this actually works this time. I love you, please work. Okay. Anyway, TXT's latest album, Fight or Escape, completes the Chaos chapter with their latest music video, Loser Equals Lover. And this builds up off of the previous title track for the last album, which was 0 by 1 equals Lovesong. The two music videos do seem to connect to one another and be part of the same story, but without furthering too much of the Starseekers storyline. It's more just taking place within what we've already established. If the previous music video, 0 by 1 equals Lovesong, featured the freeze reaction, then Fight and Escape has this music video showing the fighting and the escaping part of that reaction. So if they end up frozen in this harsh reality, then this is them trying to run and trying to escape from it instead. So it's just showing all three different reactions and possibilities. Just the different ways that you can deal with it. In fact, TXT in general have a storyline where they're trying to hold on to their childhood and they're essentially not wanting to grow up. They've previously described several of the pains that we saw early on as growing pains, basically things that happen to you as you grow up, which this loosely will reference, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, especially in regards to beomgyu. But yeah, just know that this is sort of furthering the idea that TXT are reluctant to grow up into adults. It's also in a warm desert area, indicating that it must be earlier than freezing, and thus it must be earlier in the timeline before 0 by 1 equals Lovesong. 0 by 1 kind of told us that, it doesn't matter, they're gonna have to be adults, and I think this is set up for 0 by 1 equals Lovesong, but there's evidence for that otherwise as well. Even beyond the similar vibes that the song have and the matching color schemes. And our first major connection is of course the car, which is even mentioned in the lyrics as a gray car. This is the same car in both music videos, and it has also previously been seen in an animation for the MMAs, I believe it was 2019. It also likely references the gray city, which is mentioned in the Our Summer lyrics. In Our Summer, they're kind of mentioning that the gray city, anything that's gray, is what they're kind of escaping from, that mundanity that basically becomes adult life. And ironically, they're going into something more colorful. Gray, on the other hand, is actually a little bit duller, and it's actually not white or black. It's in between. And I think that fits TXT really well, that they're using a gray car to travel to a more colorful place, which yes, I'll get to that. If Lovesong kind of showed their memory of them traveling together and being happy together one last time before they age out of their ability to go to Magic Island, hints of which we've seen previously, then I think Loser Equals Lover is actually showing us the point in which they decide to run away together, after realizing what it actually means to be an adult and have adult responsibilities. Like money. TXT's story up till this point has shown them constantly rewinding time and trying to stay within their childhood and their friendly memories. Friendly memories? We're going with it. Friendly memories. And they are basically not experiencing consequences, but we see that consequences are slowly building up behind them. This was kind of the same in that respect. They have basically no consequence in this entire music video for anything that they do. But we are starting to see why they can't keep just doing this. They can't keep having fun and doing whatever they want. We are starting to see the consequences, and they're also starting to see the consequences. The second reason that Loser Equals Lover has to come before 0 by 1 equals Lovesong is Taeyeon's cast, which you were probably expecting me to say, and I'm not going to talk about it too much because I have talked about it to death in previous videos. It's from It, it's a reference to It. Watch the video where I talk about it. In my mind, they're literally showing the moment where the V appears on his cast because they're telling us this is what happened before the music video that you've already seen. It's so that we can relate a sense of time to it. So let's go ahead and look at what else this music video might be showing us. Yeonjun is seen alone at the beginning, and this is because he's the oldest in the group, and thus he would be the first to essentially age out of being able to travel to Magic Island. And I think we've seen hints that he's kind of aware of this previously, in Blue Hour, and then also the fact that he's kind of cheating in a way in other videos, even in Magic Island when they're going to Magic Island. I think he's trying to stay there as long as he possibly can, if that's not obvious from the time travel. But this is also hinted at the end of 0 by 1 equals lovesong, where yeonjun wakes up alone. And keep in mind that Magic Island is like meant to be part of a dream. It's got a lot of different definitions, but essentially it's like a dream world that exists in a digital space. So when he opens his eyes and he's back in the real world, he realizes like, oh, he's not there anymore. He's not with his friends. So the "I'm a loser" that the song endlessly repeats, which is related to the sense of money and needing money and getting older, with hence the like dollar sign in the loser word, becomes true. His adult responsibilities have changed him. They've come into his life, and the magic that used to be the sole focus of it is now starting to fade. This is also reflected in Yeonjun's rap, where it talks about trying to fly and falling. It mentions flying to eternity, which is associated with their Magic Island and Moa in general, and probably what we see happening at the ending, flying to eternity. But how he himself can't help falling. He falls back down to reality. But with you, Moa, it's okay to fall. It's okay to be joining reality. It's okay to grow up. Even if the flight itself was bad, you are waiting there on the other side. You are waiting there. You are the whole ocean there to catch him. By the way, that line, "I want to sink into your ocean," really makes me think about the concept trailer for Magic, all the way back at Magic, where Yeonjun like dances in an ocean and then there's the whale and everything. I don't know if that'll become relevant again anytime soon. They do seem to be hinting at the whale being the same as the whale from BTS. But I wanted to mention that because you never know, might come back. We'll see. Let's look at some of the other lyrics in the song though. "This life like a war, I'm always the loser. You were my savior. On the edge of the cliff, your light leads me, making me a winner." Let's first look at this final line, "making me a winner." Because we've possibly seen hints about this back in the concept photos for this album, Yeonjun on his shoes is written as a winner in the fight version of the album, but I think that the winner here is actually referring to Moa. Why? Because the line about the light leading them into the sky is probably a reference to the star, which is suspected to be related to Moa. So again, even if they drive off the cliff, Moa is the light that will guide them to the other side. But why is winner only in reference to Yeonjun? Well, that's kind of a mystery. Yeonjun does vaguely hear Moa in Magic Island, but Soobin is the one who's mostly associated with Moa. But if you have theories about why this might be, let me know in the comments below. Speaking of Magic Island, we know because of the Magic Island music video that you don't necessarily need the light to guide you to be able to get there. They can get there just fine without it, because at the beginning of the Magic Island music video, we are told that the star is still asleep. But yet, they still manage to get to Magic Island. In fact, in that music video, they're actually shown jumping into the sky in a scene that looks very similar to the ending scene of this music video. Again, implying that they're making it across and jumping to Magic Island. Okay, I hear you. There's a lot of theories about the car scene. You want to hear about the car. That's why you're here. All right. Let's talk about the car for a little bit. Let's just jump there. A popular thought is that it might be related to the movie Thelma and Louise, which ends on a similar frame. The movie's themes are really similar as well. After all, they're on a road trip and they do some bad things and there's people chasing after them, and then at the ending, you know, they're surrounded by cops and that prompts them to jump off the cliff. Basically. I think that this connection has led a lot of people to believe that TXT at the end are dying, because they're doing the same thing, right? Personally, I believe otherwise. I'm gonna give you the information and then you can come to the decision that you want to come to, because I think that it could go either way. In Thelma and Louise, it's important to realize that what they're doing, while yes, physically they're driving off a cliff, that's not really what it represents. The whole journey that they go on is based off of friendship and this chasing of the idea of freedom, which TXT can definitely relate to. But I think it's important to note that at the end, Thelma and Louise are surrounded by cops. This signals the end of their freedom. They share a look with each other, same as TXT, and then they decide to drive off of the cliff. Because in their own way, that is them holding on to their freedom until the last possible moment. The film doesn't even show anything past that. It literally freezes frame on the car at the height of the freedom that they chose. It gives you like a sense of escape and wonder. And I think this feeling is exactly what TXT is going for at the end of this music video. You know, it's a similar setting. Clearly they're both in deserts. They're both driving off a cliff, and you know, TXT, while it's not a freeze frame, they do end in their watercolor looking ending. They're going to freedom. And for TXT's case, their freedom is Magic Island. And like I said before, there are other things that point to this being the case. The way that it turns into a painting, it kind of gives it like a storybook feel, which we know TXT have referenced a lot in the past, and even the fact that it's painted is probably a reference to yeonjun painting in Blue Hour. The fact it's happening at the sunset during their Blue Hour, the same as their Blue Hour music video in which they go to Magic Island into this fantasy world. I think it's giving us a really good indication of what's actually going on here. And of course, the fact that this is a prequel to Lovesong, as we already established. I think this is the first time they decided to go there together like this. Since it kind of seems like they're new to it, they're like, okay, you know, yeonjun does like that like breath where like in Lovesong he was sort of ruminating about it instead. They're going to their other side, like the lyrics say, to the end of the world, to eternity, which are all different ways that Magic Island has been represented in their lyrics before. They're joining Moa. And yeah, I know that Moa are kind of like shown to be ghosts, and they've even had like scenes where they've died. Thank you, dragon. I think it's more that Moa are these like eternal ghosts that have seen so many bad endings and are just trying to help TXT achieve a good one. So, you know, you could also look at it as, yeah, maybe that's a bad ending. Maybe that was not a good timeline for them. But they seemed really happy. The music video ends on such a high note. Personally, I think they're going to Magic Island. Moa seems to be there to try to help them. They would try to help stop a disaster in the end, and, you know, Moa saves them. But you're free to come to your own conclusion on that. I think it works out either way. Anyways, actually, speaking of Moa, we actually get so many references to Moa in this music video and in the lyrics. These girls with the boys are actually all played by one person, which is amazing. I guess she's just wearing like different clothing and wig. And it is meant to be a representation of Moa, of us. TXT themselves have confirmed this. Although I do wonder if it's also supposed to like represent their anima, like their female counterpart of their psyche, which is just like the theory of Carl Jung, a map of a soul kind of thing, if you're familiar with BTS. And it could explain why the girls disappear later on, because it was like a part of their psyche. But I do think that TXT is taking the ideas of Map of a Soul and implementing them differently than how BTS did, so whether or not they have an anima is debatable. Like, they have an anima, but whether or not they're showing us that they have an anima. My point is, I can't tell if it's relevant or not. But anyways, Moa are also referenced a bunch in the song. And while it isn't a love song to Moa, that's Moa Diary, it kind of is, in a way. Because it shows that through their love and trust of each other and in the relationship, they can move forwards. Get through all the things that they need to get through, which for TXT is a lot. Like, yeah, the lyrics do kind of concede that even though we don't want to have to care about money, in this day and age, we kind of have to, which sucks. We'd rather focus on the love part, the lover part, the things that we love and enjoy, like how Taeyeon is doing. I think his whole arc is literally just him focusing on the love that he has for like skateboarding and whatnot, versus the money side, which is what makes you a loser. But sometimes we have to be the loser. Hence the line, lover with a $sign is a loser. And that's why they call this a f***ed up world and they're sick of fighting it. This is also highlighted in many scenes, focusing on money, of course. Yeonjun is stealing it. Soobin is trying to make money off of Bitcoin. Kai has a part-time job. And even beomgyu streaming could be a way that he's like showing that he could be more towards the loser side. Although you could also think of it as a lover thing because he's being passionate about something. But you can make money from streaming. And you could also sort of be seeing it as like reaching for fame, maybe, or recognition, which beomgyu might be, but we'll get there. But they do get tired of it. You see a whole part where they're just done and they run and they fight in some cases and then escape. I think it's important to note that in Korea and even in other countries and traditions, men have a lot of pressure to be the breadwinners of society. They are meant to, you know, support their families or whatever. And while that's changing, that's still definitely a very prevalent part of society. But just even in general, it could be talking about how the current generations, the younger generations, are really struggling in the financial economy of the world, and how the financial system just in general is failing us. We can't afford to buy houses. Rent is ridiculously high. We're expected to work to pay off our loans, which are also ridiculously high because we used them to get the schooling, which we can't now get a job in because the market is just not right. And it leads a lot of us to just wishing we could take the idea of money and throw it away, which is exactly what TXT do in their music video. Congratulations. They take their money and they escape in their attempt at trying to be free. The song kind of implies that they're using this money to escape and to help Moa escape, which... But also, Moa disappears. I mentioned that earlier, but like, Moa's just gone. They're not in the second half of the music video after they run away at all. Now, it could be because it's an anima and, like, it's meant to be their psyche, but it also might be a nod to something else. As I mentioned, Moa dies. Within the context of this video, I don't know what happened to them. Like, considering there's an ongoing theme and a trend of Moa being ghosts, Moa dying, and then helping TXT, and how TXT needs to try to remember the name because they presumably forgot that Moa were there? Like, in Magic Island, we hear the train right before it hits them being like, oh, remember the name, or something to that effect. And then in the Eternally music video, right at the end, it appears on the mirror. So, like, did they forget us in this music video too? I think that that's like kind of a nod to the fact that Moa were there and then Moa weren't there. And for whatever reason, they don't really realize that Moa is even missing, but Moa's still guiding them. It sounds more confusing the more I try to explain it. Oh, and then there's, you know, beomgyu, who never actually had full contact with Moa at all. I mean, there definitely was a comment on his live stream right at the beginning that was from Moa, which is really nice. Like, Moa are there supporting him. But unlike the others, he never actually comes into contact with them one-on-one. I need to stop being sad about this, because it's kind of ridiculous. beomgyu's story arc is that he's like an influencer, right? A live streamer kind of thing. Wannabe rock star, maybe. But like in other people's case, you know, Taeyeon, Moa saves them. Kai's case, he saves Moa. In Yeonjun's case, you know, he does seem to be like yelling at Moa at one part, but for the most part, we can assume that Moa's with him. Same with Subin, Moa's with him. beomgyu has none of that. He's shown frightfully alone in a mirror of the exact thing that happened in the drama music video, where he falls off of his bike, and in drama he realizes his friends weren't actually there for him and no one was there for him, but he was always trying to support them. And here he is again, lying on the ground, laughing, because he's always been trying so hard, and yet no one seems to be supporting him. I've previously described beomgyu as the band-aid of the group. He's seen showing his support for people really often, and his pain, which I mentioned this earlier, but if you don't know, the pain is like the spikes, the ears, etc., etc., and I think it's like growing pains, the things that hurt them as they get older. He falls again and clutches his shoulder again. Like, this is it. This is the moment. This is him gaining that pain. He realizes there's no one there to help him up. He's not as close as he wants to be to other people in the context of the story, of course, not real life beomgyu. And even as he tries at the end of this music video to connect with his friends, you know, when everyone's nodding to each other and it shows a like close up of beomgyu and he nods. And then you realize Taeyeon's not even looking at him. Maybe he's nodding to Kai, but Kai is off camera, so... because Kai was nodding to Taeyeon. The idea that he is trying to support everyone and no one is supporting him feels so much more true now than ever before, and I'm very upset right now. Well, let's see. What else do I have to talk about? Kai. Let's talk about Kai. We know his story. He saves his coworker. He has a moment where he looks like he's gonna stab or hit someone, and then doesn't go through with it at least. Maybe he was just, I don't know, psyching them out. But the thing I want to focus on is the pin on his hat and on his apron. Because it is the butter pin, like the butter logo from BTS that he is wearing on his hat and his apron. And not only that, many people have pointed out that it's the same location that Permission to Dance was filmed in. Like, the exact same location. You put them side by side and you see the same layout, it's the same. And maybe I could have been like, oh, they were just trying to dress it differently, because they did dress it differently. And, you know, they just happened to use the same location. But then they went ahead and put the butter, like, logo there, right where we can see it. It feels like they're telling us, hey, this is the same place, and we know it's the same place. Wink. I don't know what it means. I know that the place is not the same timeline, because the actual restaurant itself is a completely different setup. Like, it's owned probably by a different person at this point. I don't know. I don't know if TXT came first or if BTS came first. I want to say BTS came first, although I really can't tell. But it's the same place. And again, I'm going to take this moment to remind everyone that TXT and BTS are absolutely 100% connected. The cat is in both of their storylines. 100% has been shown. Jin makes a contract with the cat in BTS's storyline. Yeonjun presumably makes a contract with the cat in TXT's storyline. And the cat is the same. This just feels like another indication that, yeah, we know this is the same place, and we know he's wearing the Butter logo. They are connected. It's the same universe. I don't know. I don't know what else. I don't know if it'll connect beyond this, because for me, Permission to Dance didn't really have a lot to do with BTS's story. I could be wrong about that, I guess. But I just found it so interesting that they're basically like verifying, yes, it's the same place, it's the same universe. Pay attention. I'm paying attention, Hybe. I'm right here. Anyways, now that we're wrapping this video up, historically speaking, did you know that the lyrics of the title track usually cover what actually happens in the Starseekers music videos? So for example, Nap of the Star was the Starseekers music video for the Dream Chapter Star, but the title track for that was Crown, in which they talk about horns growing up on your head, and then, you know, meeting a boy with wings, and having that person save you, which is exactly what happens in the Nap of the Star music video. This trend continues, with this music video probably hinting at the Freeze music video, which will definitely be coming. There's even evidence in their album that it's the Starseekers song, the Starseekers music video, which would be coming. It'll be the last music video that comes out. But the lyrics in this song kind of hint at that, and so I kind of wonder if we should be paying more attention to the lyrics and seeing if someone's gonna be falling in the Frost music video. Because there is a line that we already know matches with Frost, and that is, laughing like you've gone mad. And you don't have to listen very far into Frost to know that Kai laughs exactly like he's gone mad. I mean, beomgyu does that too in this music video, but like, you know, lots of people can laugh like they've gone mad. Could be me. Could be you next. So, Frost music video when? Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you subscribe with notifications turned on so that you're notified every single time that I post a new video. All of my social media is linked in the description below, including my Twitter and my Instagram. People always are like, oh my god, I finally found you. It's in the description. It's right there. I also have my Discord server in there, and of course my Patreon, where if you want early access to the scripts for my videos, fun behind the scene content, just little updates and stuff like that, that's all on my Patreon. Speaking of, I do want to give a shout out to my patrons. Thank you guys so much for your support. As it is, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay sunny, my friends. Bye!